This is a vending machine at the beach here in Da Nang, Vietnam. There's no vandalism. Nobody has attacked this Sprite machine. Nobody has tried to rob it. There's a lot of vending machines just like this all throughout Da Nang. This is public exercise equipment that anybody can climb onto and use. Over here, we have a public foot washing station. Works just fine. It's been there for years. Here in Vietnam, there are lots of public equipment that we can use collectively. There are public bicycles, but people are not vandalizing and attacking the equipment. Now, one of the big excuses not to provide resources like this to communities in the USA is this myth that we can't have nice things in the USA because of the tragedy of the commons. Now, this is a feudal myth that has been embedded into our collective social consciousness, and it goes all the way back to the times when peasants had common land. The nobles wanted to take possession of that land and enclose it and make it their own private property. They used this tragedy of the commons myth to justify that accumulation of wealth and private property. And it's used today by capitalists to prevent the people from getting access to basic, cool, functional things like public exercise equipment. The only reason that vandalism occurs in extremely impoverished, miserable cities is because the people in those cities don't feel served, they don't feel heard, they don't feel like they have any sort of power in their lives. Here in Vietnam, the social consciousness is much more collective. We used to have that in the USA where I'm from. It has eroded substantially because people don't feel bought into our society, and people are conditioned by the ruling class to believe that it's human nature to be greedy and selfish and indulgent. We are convinced to believe in the tragedy of the commons, and so we act that ideology out. The real tragedy is capitalism, because capitalism prevents us from having ownership over our communities. By the way, if we look around, you don't have to take me at my word for this. You can come to Vietnam and see it for yourself. There are no cops at this beach. I have been living in Da Nang since 2020, and I have never seen cops patrolling this beach. The people just don't engage in acts of vandalism. Now, do you think things were always like this here in Vietnam? Do you think the French provided exercise equipment and nice vending machines? No, they were impoverished. They were in slavery for over a century under French occupation. But what the Vietnamese did is they rose up, they had a revolution, they seized command over their own society. They built a society that they had collective ownership of. And that's why we see all this nice stuff here today. That's why things are always getting better here in Vietnam. And the only way to combat this false consciousness of tragedy of the commons is to build a working class movement that seizes meaningful power in our society so that we can take ownership of our society the way that Vietnamese people have taken ownership of theirs.